When Rebecca Chen found a photo of herself sleeping pinned to her apartment door, she had no idea that the person who took it had been standing over her bed every single night for the past 6 months. Before we continue, subscribe, like, drop a comment, and turn on notifications, because I drop interesting stories like this always. Portland, Oregon, October 2019. Rebecca Chen was a 28-year-old graphic designer living alone in a modest apartment in the Northwest District. She was quiet, independent, the kind of person who preferred the company of her 2 cats over crowded bars. She worked from home 3 days a week. She ordered groceries online. She rarely went out after dark. She was careful, but careful wasn't enough. What happened to Rebecca over the course of 14 months would challenge everything investigators thought they knew about stalking cases. It would reveal technology could be weaponized in ways that make locked doors meaningless. It would show that the most dangerous predators are the ones who never need to break in, because they're already inside. Rebecca had moved to Portland in January 2018, chasing a fresh start after a difficult breakup in San Francisco. Her ex-boyfriend Marcus had been controlling, possessive, the kind of man who checked her phone when she wasn't looking and accused her of cheating when she worked late. When she finally ended things, he'd shown up at her apartment for weeks, begging her to reconsider. She'd filed a restraining order, changed her number, moved 600 miles north. Portland felt safe, anonymous. The kind of city where you could disappear into the rain in coffee shops and start over. Her apartment was on the 3rd floor of a converted warehouse building, exposed brick, high ceilings, large windows that overlooked the street. She loved those windows during the day. The natural light made her workspace perfect, but at night she kept the curtains drawn. Something about being visible to the street below made her uncomfortable. She had 2 deadbolts on her door, a chain lock, a doorbell camera she'd installed herself. She'd learned to be cautious. For 18 months, her life in Portland was exactly what she'd hoped for. Quiet, predictable, safe, until the messages started. It began in October 2019 with an Instagram DM from an account with no profile picture, no posts. The username was a random string of numbers and letters. And the message was simple: "You look beautiful when you sleep." Rebecca stared at her phone screen, her stomach tightening. She assumed it was spam, some bot. She blocked the account and forgot about it. 3 days later, another message from a different account. "I like how you arrange the pillows on your couch. The gray one on the left is my favorite." This one made her skin crawl. She lived alone. She hadn't posted any photos of her apartment interior. She checked her Instagram privacy settings. Everything was locked down. Her account was private. She had maybe 40 followers, all people she knew personally. She blocked this account too. Then she went through her apartment, checking every window, every lock. Everything was secure. But the feeling of being watched didn't go away. A week passed. She started to relax. And maybe it was just random trolls. Maybe someone had seen through her window from the street. Then she found the note. It was tucked under her apartment door on a Tuesday morning. A small piece of white paper folded once. The handwriting was neat, precise, almost elegant. "You left your bedroom lamp on last night. You usually turn it off by 11 p.m. I was worried you weren't feeling well." Rebecca's hands shook as she read it. Someone was watching her routine, tracking her habits, keeping detailed notes about her behavior. She called the police that afternoon. Officer David Park arrived at her apartment around 3 p.m. He was in his mid-40s, with graying hair and the tired expression of someone who'd seen too many domestic cases go nowhere. He took her statement, examined the note, or looked at the screenshots of the Instagram messages. "Has your ex-boyfriend made any contact?" he asked. "Not in almost 2 years," Rebecca said. "And he's in California. I checked his social media last month. He's in a new relationship." "Sometimes that doesn't matter," Park said. "Sometimes that makes it worse." He asked about neighbors, co-workers, anyone who might have developed an obsession. Rebecca couldn't think of anyone. She barely knew her neighbors. She worked from home. Her social circle was small and drama-free. Park examined her windows, her locks, her doorbell camera footage. Everything was secure. The camera showed no one approaching her door except her and the occasional delivery person. "Whoever left that note must have been careful about the camera angle," Park said. "Oh, they knew where to stand." This detail bothered Rebecca more than anything else. It meant they'd studied her security system, planned around it. Park filed a report. He told her to document everything. Save every message. Keep her doors locked. Consider staying with a friend for a few days. Unfortunately, there's not much we can do until this person makes a direct threat or attempts contact, he said. Right now it's creepy, but not criminal. Rebecca nodded. She understood, but she also knew she wouldn't feel safe in her apartment anymore. That night, she stayed at her friend Jessica's house. She didn't sleep. For 2 weeks, nothing happened. No messages, no notes. Rebecca started to think maybe the police visit had scared them off. Maybe it was over. She moved back into her apartment. She tried to return to normal. Then one morning, she woke up and found a gift on her kitchen counter. A small jewelry box, black velvet, tied with a silver ribbon. Rebecca stood in her doorway, staring at it. Her heart hammered against her ribs. All her windows were locked. Her door was locked. The chain was in place. She checked before going to bed. She called Jessica before touching it. "Don't open it," Jessica said immediately. "Call the police. Don't touch anything." But Rebecca couldn't help herself. She needed to know. She used a kitchen towel to open the box, careful not to leave fingerprints. Inside was a delicate silver bracelet and a note. "I'm sorry I scared you. I just want you to know how much I care. You deserve beautiful things. I hope you like this. I noticed you wear a lot of silver jewelry. I pay attention to the details." The handwriting matched the previous note. Rebecca dropped the box. She backed against the wall, her breath coming in short gasps. Someone had been inside her apartment while she slept. They had walked through her home, looked at her things, left a gift on her kitchen counter, and she hadn't heard a thing. When Officer Park arrived this time, his expression was different, more serious. "We're treating this as a breaking and entering now," he said. "This is a crime scene." They dusted for fingerprints, found nothing. Whoever had been inside wore gloves. They examined the locks. No signs of forced entry. They checked the windows, all still locked from the inside. "How is this possible?" Rebecca asked. Her voice was shaking. Park didn't have an answer. Once they checked her doorbell camera footage from the previous night, nothing. No one had approached her door. "Is there any other entrance to the building?" Park asked. "Fire escape," Rebecca said, "but my windows were locked." They checked anyway. The fire escape window in her bedroom had a lock that worked perfectly. No signs of tampering. It didn't make sense, unless... "Do you have a spare key?" Park asked. "Hidden anywhere? Given to anyone?" Rebecca shook her head. "I only have the one. I wear it on my keychain. It never leaves my possession." But even as she said it, doubt crept in. Had she lost it at some point? Had someone copied it? She tried to remember if she'd ever let her keys out of her sight. Park recommended she change the locks immediately. Rebecca called a locksmith that afternoon. But changing the locks didn't change the feeling of violation. Someone had stood in her apartment while she slept, had watched her, had left a gift like some twisted romantic gesture. She stopped sleeping in her bedroom. She slept on the couch with all the lights on, a knife within reach. Over the next month, it happened 6 more times. 6 more mornings when Rebecca woke up to find something new in her apartment. A book she'd mentioned wanting to read in a private conversation with her mother over the phone. A specific brand of tea she'd ordered on Amazon 2 weeks earlier. A framed photo of her and her late grandmother. The original had been in a box in her closet. Fresh flowers in a vase on her dining table. A handwritten poem about her beauty. A USB drive containing photos of her. Hundreds of them. Some taken through her window. Some taken inside her apartment while she slept. Her face peaceful, unaware, vulnerable. Each time her locks were changed. Each time there were no signs of forced entry. Each time her security camera showed nothing. The police were baffled. Detective Sarah Monroe took over the case from Officer Park. She was younger, sharper, more willing to think outside the box. "This is sophisticated," Monroe said, spreading the evidence across her desk. "Whoever this is, they're tech-savvy, they're patient, they're organized, and they're obsessed." They analyzed the photos on the USB drive for metadata. The images had been scrubbed clean. No location data, no camera information, nothing traceable. They installed additional cameras throughout Rebecca's apartment, motion sensors, smart locks that logged every entry. The stalker didn't come back while the new security was being installed. They waited, watching. 2 weeks after the new system was in place, Rebecca woke up to find a note on her nightstand. "I see you've upgraded your security. Very clever. But it won't keep me out. Nothing will. I know you better than you know yourself. I know you're afraid, but you don't need to be. I would never hurt you. I love you, Rebecca. I've loved you from the moment I first saw you." Detective Monroe reviewed the security footage. All the cameras, all the sensors. Nothing had been triggered. No doors had opened. No windows had been breached. It was impossible. Unless. "Has your phone been acting strange?" Monroe asked. "Any apps you don't recognize? Any unusual battery drain?" Rebecca checked, and her phone seemed normal. But Monroe had it analyzed by the forensics team anyway. They found spyware, deeply embedded, sophisticated. It had access to everything: her camera, her microphone, her messages, her emails, her location data, everything. The stalker had been watching her through her own phone for months. "But how did it get on there?" Rebecca asked. "Could have been installed remotely through a phishing link," the tech specialist said. "Or someone with physical access to your phone for just a few minutes could have done it." Rebecca tried to remember. Had she left her phone unattended? Had she clicked a suspicious link? She couldn't be sure. They wiped her phone, gave her a new one, told her not to download anything, not to click any links, not to log into any old accounts. But the spyware explained some things. Not everything. It explained how the stalker knew her routine, knew her conversations, knew what she ordered online. It didn't explain how they kept getting inside her apartment. In early December, Rebecca met Daniel Reeves. He lived in the apartment directly below hers. She'd seen him a few times in the hallway. Quiet, polite, in his early 30s. He worked in IT, he'd mentioned once. Kept odd hours. He knocked on her door one evening with a plate of cookies. "I baked too many," he said with an awkward smile. "I thought you might like some. I know you've been having a rough time. I heard the police have been here a lot." Rebecca hesitated. She didn't know him well, but he seemed genuine, concerned. "Thank you," she said, taking the plate. "That's really kind." "If you ever need anything," Daniel said, "I'm right downstairs. I'm usually home, and I have a pretty good security system. If you ever feel unsafe, you can knock on my door." Something about his offer made Rebecca uncomfortable, but she couldn't pinpoint why. He was just being neighborly, wasn't he? After he left, she threw the cookies away. She didn't know him well enough to eat food he'd made, but that night, as she lay on her couch trying to sleep, she thought about Daniel. He lived below her. He would know her routine from the sounds of her footsteps. He worked in IT, which meant he had the technical knowledge to install spyware. He'd admitted to hearing the police visits, which meant he was paying attention. The next morning, she mentioned him to Detective Monroe. "Daniel Reeves," Monroe wrote down. "We'll look into him." They ran a background check. Daniel was clean, no criminal record. No restraining orders, no red flags. He'd lived in the building for 3 years, worked for a software company downtown. By all accounts, he was a normal, law-abiding citizen, but Monroe wasn't convinced. "The thing about stalkers," she said, "is they often present as the helpful neighbor, the concerned coworker. They insert themselves into the victim's life as a protector. It gives them access. It gives them information." They started surveillance on Daniel, discreetly, watching his movements, tracking his digital footprint. For 2 weeks, he did nothing suspicious. He went to work, came home, ordered takeout, played video games, normal life. Then on December 18th, something strange happened. Rebecca's new security system sent an alert at 2:47 a.m. Motion detected in her living room. She was asleep on the couch. Just the alert woke her. She grabbed her phone, pulled up the camera feed. The apartment was empty, nothing moved. But the sensor had definitely been triggered. She called 911. Police arrived within minutes. They searched the apartment, found nothing. But when they reviewed the camera footage, they saw something that made Detective Monroe's blood run cold. At 2:47 a.m., a shadow moved across the wall, just a flicker. There for a second, then gone. But there was nothing in the room to cast that shadow. "Play it again," Monroe said. They watched it 5 times, each time the same shadow, moving left to right across the wall, as if someone had walked through the room, but the cameras showed no one. "Is there any other footage?" Monroe asked. "From a different angle?" They checked all 3 cameras. None of them showed a person. It's just the shadow. "This doesn't make sense," one of the officers said. But Monroe had seen enough stalking cases to know that when something didn't make sense, you were missing a piece of the puzzle. "I want to see the floor plans for this building," she said, "the original blueprints. and I want to talk to the landlord about any renovations. The blueprints revealed something disturbing. When the warehouse had been converted to apartments in 2015, several modifications had been made, walls moved, spaces repurposed, and in the process, a gap had been created between Rebecca's apartment and the one next door. A gap about 3 feet wide and 12 feet long, hidden behind the drywall, accessible only through a small panel in the shared laundry room on the 3rd floor. Detective Monroe stood in the laundry room, staring at the panel. And it was painted the same color as the wall, easy to miss, but once you knew it was there, you couldn't unsee it. "Has anyone accessed this recently?" she asked the building manager. "I don't even know that panel was there," the manager said. "I've only been managing this property for 6 months." Monroe got a crowbar, pried the panel open. Inside was a narrow crawl space, dark, musty, and at the far end, she could see light coming through small holes drilled into the wall, positioned at eye level, looking directly into Rebecca's apartment. Monroe crawled inside. Her flashlight beam cut through the darkness. What she found made her stomach turn. A sleeping bag, bottles of water, protein bar wrappers, a notebook filled with handwritten observations about Rebecca's daily routine. Times she woke up, what she ate, what she wore, who she talked to on the phone, and photos, dozens of printed photos taped to the walls. All of Rebecca. This was a nest. Someone had been living here, watching, but that wasn't the worst part. At the far end of the crawl space, Monroe found a hole in the floor, just big enough for a person to fit through. It led down to the apartment below. Daniel Reeves' apartment. Police raided Daniel's apartment at 6 a.m. the next morning. He answered the door in pajamas, confused, cooperative. He let them search without hesitation. They found nothing. No evidence of the stalking, no photos, no notes. His computer was clean. His phone was clean. His apartment was obsessively neat and organized, but otherwise normal. "I don't understand what's happening," Daniel said. Why are you searching my apartment?" Detective Monroe showed him photos of the crawl space, the nest, the hole leading to his apartment. "This access point is in your ceiling," she said, "in your bedroom closet, behind the false panel." Daniel's face went pale. "I didn't know that was there. I swear, I've never accessed that space." They brought him in for questioning anyway. He sat in the interrogation room for 6 hours. He never asked for a lawyer. He answered every question. He seemed genuinely shocked and confused. "I would never do something like that," he said. "Yes, I thought Rebecca was attractive. Yes, I wanted to get to know her better. That's why I brought her cookies. But I would never stalk her, never break into her apartment. That's insane." The problem was, they couldn't prove he was lying. His digital footprint was clean, too clean, almost suspiciously so, like someone who knew how to cover their tracks. But without concrete evidence, they couldn't charge him. They held him for 48 hours. Then they had to let him go. Rebecca was terrified. "He's going to come after me," she told Detective Monroe. "You know it's him. You found the access point in his apartment." "We're watching him," Monroe said. 24/7 surveillance. If he goes near you or your apartment, we'll know." But Rebecca couldn't stay there anymore. She moved to a hotel, then to Jessica's house. She took a leave of absence from work. She was falling apart. The stalking stopped. For 3 weeks, there were no messages, no gifts, no intrusions. It seemed like arresting Daniel, even without charging him, had scared the stalker off. Rebecca started to breathe again, started to think maybe it was over. Then on January 9, 2020, she received a package at Jessica's house. Inside was a USB drive and a note. "You think you're safe now. You think you've escaped. But I told you, nothing will keep me out. Not new locks, not new cameras, not even a new address. I will always find you, because I am closer than you think. I am everywhere you are." And Daniel? Poor Daniel. He had no idea what was happening in his own apartment. It was almost too easy to frame him. You should see the look on your face right now. Are you confused? Scared? Good, you should be. Because this isn't over, Rebecca. This will never be over. I own you. Rebecca's hands shook as she plugged the USB drive into her laptop. The files loaded. Videos. Dozens of them. The first video showed Daniel's apartment. Empty. The camera angle was from the ceiling vent. Then a figure appeared, crawling down from the hidden access panel. A person dressed in all black, face covered, moving silently through Daniel's apartment. The timestamp showed it was from 3 months ago, October 23rd, the same day Rebecca had first noticed signs someone had been in her home. The figure moved to Daniel's computer, plugged in a USB drive,